Aloha. Today I just wanted to talk about, kind of add on what I was talking about yesterday, as far as the beyond space of like kind of like what's next kind of scenario, because um, the movie reel that's being played for the orchestrated awakening, the New Age agenda, the transhumanist agenda, the control grid, the flat Earth um, unveiling, or whatever they try to do. It's already being, the very fact that it's being prepped. They're creating a foundation. So the only spaces we're going to be able to experience our own um, maximum potentials is if we start to undo the stuff that has been created for us to limit ourselves, and also start activating um, our natural vibrations, our natural connections to ourselves, our natural connections to each other, and kind of like just go from there. Just really see what it is that's going to be from the inside out, and not really approach any situation from a reactionary stance or from the outside in, which is what the scenario, the system needs us to do in order to maintain their power, their control, just like NASA and all that stuff. Like they might have these telescopes that can prove, what's what out there in the star systems, and the planets, what the planets look like up close, what our planet or what our plane looks like completely around. But just imagine that they did that now. Now they have the power to say whatever they want. Now they have the power to do whatever they want, because now they have us again. They got us linked, just like the globe model did when they brought that out, and they started passing out all these globes and saying, this is what your Earth looks like. Come to this university system and know what we know, because we are the people who tell you what you need to know about your universe. Come to the university. And then we were just like, oh, cool, you guys are really smart and have nice suits and nice wigs, and can really talk about mathematics and science from you guys are really intellectual, and have a lot of good whatevers. It's um, it's a distraction. It's still the colonial mindset. It's still, we've been colonized to the umpteenth degree, and um, the technological spaces is the next colonialization. That's what's being. There's these various layers of colonizing our reality. So you have like gentrification, which colonizes your communities. You have technology, which colonizes, which is going to colonize, or moving towards colonizing the body, but it colonizes your psyche. It colonizes your trust. It colonizes um, your maximum potentials, your abilities to not have to rely on anything outside of yourself. Like it takes away your intuition. It takes away your it takes away your natural connections to nature. Um, the list goes on, and how technology gets involved in our reality, and starts to take over. So yeah, the education system, which colonizes our connections to um, intellect, true depths of the mind, true depths of the psyche, and everything else that the so-called science community is pumping out there. That's just one version of our reality. But the main thing I wanted to mention right now is something we can do individually, which is something that I've done. At least internally, you have to do it because it clears yourself a lot when you do this sort of stuff. Um, energetically, instead of having to do anything else, at least energetically do this for yourself, by rewiring our connections to this body, our connections to our family, our culture, the land, where we come from. Because I was talking about this to a friend of mine, is that we still, like even in the last video I mentioned, a lot of us have slave names. A lot of us are still locked into the slave mentality, which separates us not only culturally, but spiritually. It separates us, and from so much. Like everything is connected to that realization. Um, but like for me, I'm so-called Mexican and black, so what does that mean? I never felt comfortable with calling myself African American or Mexican American. That doesn't make any sense to me. It never did. Um, and that in itself which is my point, that's just another version of the slave mind. It's another version of putting people into a box, another version of control as a whole. So you have like all these different bodies of land that have been colonized and taken over by the same individuals, the same energy which run the university system, which will run the governments, which run the fiat currency system and the maritime admiralty law. All these systems, which is all within the technological grid, it's all part of the same stuff. So one way we can start to undo what has been done is continue to be done to us is to at least recognize and at least open the door to what tomorrow would look like or feel like or sound like, and realize the grips that have been as soft as they might seem, as like trivial as it might seem to some people. It's a real big deal once you realize that yes, you do still have a slave name. Yes, you do still affiliate with a slave mentality, known as like Mexican American. Like the United States is not America. This is another psychological thing that's part of the military industrial complex, that's part of the colonization program, is part of the grid as a whole, and we just take it for granted because you know we've always felt this way, or that's just what my family, my mother, and my parents, my grandparents refer to themselves as, or something like that. Whatever it is, it's just these comforts that we're okay with, because it's twice positive once we undo the shit that is so heavy, that has been placed on us to create a vibration. Because once you undo that stuff, you are at the same time activating something that's on a deeper level. Another part of that is that, like, another example of that is the slave stories that keep getting pumped into the reality, or the mainstream reality, in order to maintain this idea of the only reason why black people are in the United States is because the slave masters brought them over. That's a blatant lie. There were already so-called black people here before they showed up. Black people have been all around the world, touched every corner of this land, on this earth plane, well before Christopher Columbus did anything. The roots storyline, the slave ship storyline, all of that is to disconnect you from realizing that you yourself, um, the large majority of people who are so-called black in the United States are indigenous. A lot of the people don't want to see that. That's why they tell the stories of cowboys and Indians all the time, to maintain the storyline of, oh yeah, this is how it is. It's just like cowboys and Indians and this whole. No, it's not simple. They have to like genericize everything in order to maintain a psychological grid. So it's not just about like, once we were realizing like flat Earth stuff and the Mandela effect. Like a lot of people, once they start to realize the connections that they have as a people, they'll start to realize the connections that happen in the Mandela effect. Like in order to even understand something like the Mandela effect, taking it into the next level of consciousness and a grid of information, or a grid of an organic grid of connection between humans. And seeing the reality shift on a grand scale like that doesn't make sense. Like I was talking to some friends last night, talking about the moon shade and the moonlight being colder than like there's no science for that. They act like that doesn't exist in the so-called science community. They don't know anything about that. So that's a big fucking deal. It's a big bright light in the sky, and they act like it doesn't. There's no science for that. So the people in the flat Earth community are actually doing testing, which doesn't. You don't need a big ass like machine or a shop to do these tests to realize this stuff exists. But it's just that they haven't made it mainstream, because that's an example of how we've been dumbed down in order to create this basic ass reality. So in order for us to not have to wait on anybody, we can do the things that that are natural to us and undo the colonization program as we experience our lives internally, and it'll start to manifest itself externally within our own lives and within the collective. But first it has to happen internally. Yeah, the whole Mexican American thing. Okay, so yeah, back to the indigenous people. Like the reason why Hollywood is so whitewashed, the reason why the political scene is so whitewashed, the reason why the White House is the White House, the reason why the university system is so like proper and like all this, that they made that shit up. That doesn't make you smart because you speak like this and you have a nice wig on and you're a valedictorian and you're a dean of whatever. Like that shit doesn't make any difference, and you don't need that mentality in order to be understanding information or be wise or anything like that. It's just it's a facade. It's a movie reel, and when we start undoing the movie reel, then we'll be able to activate the natural experience. So anyway, my main point was that once we start doing this internally, and think the way we can do this stuff internally is to realize that, yeah, she's right here. Yeah, just to realize that if you're Mexican, you're Mexican. Like, that's one, like, Mexicans are indigenous, like they're aboriginal people here, like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, California, that's all Mexico. It's only not Mexico because of this destruction program that has been pawned off as our reality for however many decades, centuries, and convincing us that we are of a slave mentality. This is what the Maritime Admiralty Law is. You are a number. You are a catalog number in a system of control. So They have to have these things. They have to refer to themselves as America. America is number one. America is the land of the free, home of the brave. All this is a psychological programming. American Samoa. Like, Samoa is Samoa. The Samoan people are Samoan. They're not American Samoa. Um, they can affiliate with all of the Americas, but they only really the government side, the paperwork side of American Samoa is only to maintain that colonial program of, this is America. When they say America, they mean the United States, because they ain't talking about Argentina, they ain't talking about Peru, they ain't talking about Guatemala, they ain't talking about Mexico, they ain't talking about Bolivia and Colombia. They're not talking about it. That's all of America. These are the American peoples. That is part of the psychological separation grid that we can start doing on our own, to realize that not to separate or not to like talk about all this the new age oneness and all that other stuff. No, because I understand that there's a beauty to the things that are different about us. There's a beauty to the harmonics that people have and the Taino people have. There's a beauty to the indigenous people in Jamaica. There's a beauty and harmony to the Mexican people and the Samoan people and the Hawaiian people. There's a harmonics there that has been shifted and manipulated to be Americanized, or really it's just genericized. So once we start to disassemble the generic grid, we are organically activating the natural grid, the organic spaces. And one way we can do that is realize the depths of this psychological program that we call the American. I can call it like the American grid. Like that's one way to see it. It's like the United States is this big. It's tiny. It's not as big as it needs to pump itself up to be when it references itself as America. Because if they really were talking about America, they would have to take in the perspectives of the people of Peru. They would have to take in the perspectives and all the presidents and all the leaders down there. They would have to take in all these perspectives and be really connected on a space. But that's I'm feeling like they're gonna try to do that anyway with their the artificial way. If it happens from the outside in as opposed to the inside out, it's going to be for a control grid. But if we start to do this internally, then that's when it will happen naturally. Like I was saying, for the individual, like for me, like I don't refer to myself as Mexican American, because I understand what Mexican is, and I understand what American is, and I understand what Mexican American is. Just like when somebody refers to states, like there's a difference between the state of California and California State, and then there's even the universities are like that, like Cal State and then like the University of Cal. But like there's the differences between all these. It's the way it's designed, the way these words, it's literally a magic. So Mexican American or African American is a spell. Like when you understand roots, what that does to the psyche of or convincing yourself that you are a slave on a regular basis. You have no history, it only starts on slavery, then you will be happy with just being a worker bee. And that's a problem. But it's a problem that works straight into the hand of the slave system control grid that we understand as like the globe model. And it sets up a foundation that can be easily bought off with toys, which is the technology and transhumanism movement and that whole space of distraction. So in order to flip the script, these tiny steps that we can take actually send giant shockwaves once they happen, because this is going to happen with like family members, with kids raising their families and having babies and stuff. Like you're not fucking African American. You are not Mexican American. If your mother and your father is Mexican, even though they were born in California, they're fucking Mexican. That's Mexico. This is Mexican. There's no there's no shame in connecting with the root. Like the only way, that's the only way. It's like to build up its ego, like that to put that hyphenated American in there is only to build up the ego, the military industrial complex ego of a slave system. So we can still affiliate with America. We are American, but when we understand that American, it goes from Canada all the way down to the tip of Argentina. That's a different vibration. That's a different understanding, a different connective space. When we understand that the black people, the majority of the black people that are here in America were already here, are Aboriginal Americans, then it takes the whole energy of a slave mind out of the picture. So even if, yeah, even if you still have a slave name, it doesn't affect you as deeply as anymore once you remove the energy behind it. So I'm just sharing these perspectives as far as like stuff that I've done individually, and that we're all doing on our own, and another way to do it on a bigger scale, which will automatically shift the perspectives and shift the energy outside of a control grid and outside of the programs that take our power away. So whatever you want to call yourself, wherever you come from, whatever it is, it's easy. I'm just sharing examples from my personal perspective. It's easy to understand that I'm not Mexican American. I'm not African American. My mother is Mexican and my father is black. Nobody can tell me that my father, his family wasn't already here. Nobody can tell you that the majority of the people that are black or so-called African American today were already here. That's a big ass thing to be understanding. It's a psychological grid, like Hawaiian people having that British flag, American Samoa being referred to as American Samoa only because it was colonized. Like those are the Samoan people. They can affiliate obviously with America because of the connections there, but not from the corporate American United States perspective. We've been corporatized. So in order to remove the corporate spaces internally, they will be removed externally. So stop referring to America, United States, as America. Stop referring to yourself as Mexican American and all this other shit. It's not like that. Like, that takes the power away from what already was and what still is right now, and it psychologically sets up a program of powerlessness. This is all the illusions of NASA, the university system, this whole so-called intellectual grid, CERN, all this shit, transhumanism, even the new age stuff, all this shit is based upon somebody saying something and telling you, oh, this is how it is, instead of you understanding from the ground up how it is naturally, and then seeing how it fits into the world around us. It's all bait. They're selling movie reels, movie tickets. So once we stop buying these movie tickets, stop selling these movie tickets to like our kids by telling them they're African American or Mexican American, once we stop selling those bogus ass ideas of who we are and what we are, then that will naturally start to remove the slave mentality. And it's happening. So I just wanted to share this one version of how I'm seeing, the steps we could take towards expanding our power grid internally and externally, and another way to help people see more of what's connected here. It's not just about flat Earth. It's not just about um, transhumanism and the New Age stuff, and the Mandela effect. It's all of this combined, and all of the stuff that in the history books and that was left out of the history books that we um, have been taught to forget about or never even knew about. And once we start to undo what's been done, it will make what next steps that we could take be more obvious. Because fighting a system like the way the politics are, it's set up to make, there's a Trump Hillary, all this Bernie Trump Hillary shit, that is set up to make you think that that's the big deal. That's like a big deal for you. It's not. But they call themselves the talking about they're gonna be the most powerful person in the whole world, the leader of the free world. They're still talking about 1950s ass shit. This shit ain't real. It's all an illusion. They're making all this shit up. They still talking to you as if you're a slave. And as long as we affiliate with our slave names, our slave realities, and our slave histories, then, you know, that's what the reality is going to be played out to be. So, yeah. This kind of stuff, once we start talking about this stuff and sharing this information, it'll make it easier for people to kind of set up an understanding of how deep these lies go with stuff like the flat earth and stuff like the future lies that they're getting ready to talk about with like the New Age agenda and transhumanist agenda and whatever they're going to do with the Mandela effect stuff. Like you can see, it'll make it easier for people to see how far these lies go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.